Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Transformed You. Mark DeJesus here again with my amazing wife, Melissa.
Hey, everyone.
It's great to be with you. We're going to continue this series that we've been on about shepherding your heart, which involves cultivating a life that is flowing from a heart that is healed and free. And I think that what we're going to get into today fits within the times that we're living in, because we do have some challenging and troubled times that are facing us and facing our culture and society. Now, I have some solo videos that I've done about these times, and I've also done a couple special videos about maintaining your peace. I'm going to continue to put out some more materials that are going to really help in encouraging the heart of the overcomer. So be aware of that. Check those out on YouTube, and I pray that they're encouraging for you. But we're going to talk here today about how to shepherd your home in turbulent times. Could be any turbulent time. At the filming of this right now, we're in the middle of a coronavirus kind of situation that is affecting the world and affecting our country. It's creating a lot of changes that people have to deal with children in school,
Out of school.
with parents and their work, financial things, all that kind of comes in. These times really reveal a lot about ourselves, right?
Yeah, it does.
And so
Shows what we're made of, what we've been cultivating.
yeah, it really is. And I think one of the things that is frustrating is it brings out a lot of our fear-driven culture. America and a lot of nations, we have a lot of fear.
Yeah, we do.
And when it comes to fear, our fears get protected, right? So if I'm afraid and I amp up that volume, and you go, yeah, we don't have to be that, then I'll tell you you're uncaring, right? So it's frustrating for me to kind of weed through, like, what do I need to pay attention to? You got social media posts, you got news angles, people's opinions. Everyone has like an angle they're bringing, right? The thing is that everything is communicated. It's laced with intensity. So it's like, you gotta, pay attention to this thing that I have to share with you. So it leaves us, okay, how do we personally, how do we in marriage, how do we with our parenting? It's kind of what I want to cover in the midst of this. So even if you're single and you may not be married or have children, this is still going to apply. And I would also advise to people that are single and not married, don't tune out when we talk about marriage, because there's a lot that applies to your own life. I think it's a mistake to go, well, I'm not married, so I just tune out.
Right. We've had that feedback. Well, I'm not married, especially if we send out, our podcast. If you want to be married, you just don't wake up one day when you're married and go, okay, I'm ready. Let's go now. There's things that if you want to be an overcomer in marriage and have a healthy marriage, start cultivating while you're single.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. And I think that the things learned in marriage are principles that everybody needs to learn anyway, about communication, about love, about what it means to be stretched and stuff like that. So anyway, all right. So we're in the midst of people have kids out of school. There's work adjustments. There's a lot of like quarantine living going on. Let's kind of start with this in your personal walk and personal life. We're talking about shepherding the heart. What do you feel like are the important things we need to pay attention to over our hearts personally? What's been helpful for you, and what are some of your recommendations?
Well, I think first off, the thing that I'm noticing about myself, and then when you look at those around you, is we don't really put investment to where it's needed, right? So we're ill prepared, whether it's toilet paper or emotional stability right now, we don't prepare. We pretty much live day to day, week to week in every aspect of our life. And I think that for our journey, a big part of that has been, what are we investing in? What are we preparing for? So I'm going to do the two extremes. I already had toilet paper saved up, okay? So I wasn't in the line with everybody and freaking out because I only have one roll left. Now, I'm not a hoarder about it, but okay, so that's the easy part of all this. But the thing that I am glad about, but yet I still have work to do, is emotionally, how am I processing when crisis happens? So I think that we've done a lot of work in this because of the investment that we've made. But then during these times, okay, if I am to do some self-talk, all right, Missy, what do you need to pay attention to right now that could be detrimental?
Right.
And so I think one of the things for me that's been huge in the past year is I got off social media. So I am not inundated. You do really good. You have to be on it for, reasons with the ministry and putting out material and stuff like that. But it's hard when you open the feed and everything's there. I don't have that. And I have to tell you, that has been an absolute lifesaver for me, that I am not getting triggered by that every single day, because it wasn't right now. If I was on social media, I have a hard enough time because I still want to be in the know. I need to know what's happening in the world. I cannot be ignorant, and I cannot shut myself off from everything and hide in a closet, but I need to know some things. So I do, let myself read the news feed that I lean towards. And I have one or two podcasts that I like to listen to. And I will tell you that I don't just listen to what I would perceive as my beliefs, my side. I have a podcast that I listen to that is the opposite side of views for me, because I like to understand where they're coming from and things. So I do always, you encourage that too. Understand the other side of political views, religious views, whatever. So I think for me, one huge thing has been, I'm not on social media. It just helps.
So I think that would be
that's a category.
It would be a whole episode we could do on just that. And I think we could stop right there, and that would really do a lot to really refresh the life of the heart. Yeah. When we're talking about shepherding our hearts, I don't think your heart was designed to be inundated with the spray, the variety of all these posts and opinions, and there's that person and there's this thing. I don't think your heart was designed to take that in.
Well, I will tell you that, especially
in that kind of way.
Correct. And I will tell you what a big piece that damaged me, that I've had to unwind for myself, especially on Instagram, was we're in a day and age where everyone shares their story. So everyone wants their story to be heard. And I've said this to you many times. I cannot believe the amount of children that have cancer, birth defect, the amount of trauma and pain that families experience is beyond anything that a heart can take. Well, when you're on social media, I'm literally reading these stories because one story leads into another story, into another story, into another story. And it's not that we shouldn't know what's happening in our community, but our heart is not designed to take in that amount of heartache that you're looking at, children's abuse. It's beyond overwhelming. And there was a mindset that creeped in pretty quickly of, well, where's God in all of this? Why is he allowing this? What's going on? And really hitting at my faith. So I caution those of you that it's subtle, right? Your heart is grieved, and it's natural to feel pain for other people, and wow, that's happening. But social media does a hit on those kinds of things. I think it's a tool of the enemy to use against the Christian community of, well, where's God with all of these things happening? Where's the God that you believe in? And that can happen when you're inundated with so much traumatic things all the time.
And it can't be solved in a little comment section back and forth that you're trying to
No,
have.
it can't.
You can't have redemptive discussions there. It's meant to have charged statements that kind of accuse, attack, argue. And I think in tagging what you're saying, it's an empathy drain.
Absolutely.
Right? So you wake up every day. You're meant to receive love from God. You're meant to see yourself with that love and give that love out to your spouse, to your children, and to the people that God has graced you to influence.
Right, which we would call tribal connection.
Right.
Right.
Or maybe not even just tribe. Maybe it's your neighbor. Maybe it's
right.
maybe those,
somebody you see at the grocery store.
Yeah, or somebody who's not a believer, right? So, because I can consider tribe your tribe of believers, people that you rub shoulders with, and so I think that's where the grace is. Now, if God's graced you to speak to 1,000 people or whatever He's giving you, Because I feel like for us, we're just trying to be faithful with the people he brings into our path, right? So however many people view this, however many people write in,
Right.
God just kind of works with us at each level, and we kind of deal with the crowd as he grows and develops us, right? And I think we live in a world where it's just like we want to tell everyone needs to hear what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And it's like, nah, maybe just the people around you need to. It doesn't need to be, because we have this intensity that because the avenue's there, everyone needs to hear it, and it can exhaust your energy.
Yeah.
Right? Because you want people to hear, and you're so passionate, and then you get this empathy drag because you have this thing that's highly charged, this thing and then we're exhausted because we're not guarding our hearts in what we feel we need to invest into. Because then it's like, well, man, maybe I need to be praying for. I haven't prayed for that nation ever, or there's needy people over here. I don't think I've ever prayed. I haven't done anything, and then guilt, and we're so prone to guilt, and it's like, keep your heart open to the grace that God is flowing in you. You're called to, because what happens is we get exhausted, then we're not watching over our families.
I was just going to say what that leads into.
We're busy in all these areas.
Yep, it leads into distraction. Mm-hmm.
I find that you and I, working with Max and Abby, and then the people God puts in our path, like there's a lot of energy in that.
And when I was scrolling through Instagram, very sucked into people's heartbreaking stories and redemption and all of these things that, yes, can be encouraging. I'm not saying they're not. It was taking up a lot of my day.
Right. And so is
and then I'm stressed out because I'm like, I didn't take anything out for dinner. I didn't help the kids enough with their math. I didn't do that. For me, that's what happened.
Yeah, and then people who are even posting that frequently, they're I'm not against them, just saying it creates.
You shouldn't have 50 million tick, 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 tick on Instagram. You're not connecting with people if that's how many ticks you have.
Right. I mean, maybe they are, but most likely it's taking a toll on you,
right?
Because it doesn't allow you to be present. Okay, so you have to remember this series and what we're doing. We're watching over the heart, right? Not talking about how much money you're making or all these flashy areas. We're looking at watch over your heart with all diligence, because out of it flow the issues of life. So if we're talking about the heart, you have to take your input of social media and news, because I kind of tie that together because people get their news now through social media avenues. That's really the hub of it all. And then you have your feeds on your phone that show you news, right? So, and I talked a whole video about guarding your input and all that. But I think you're right there. Like, some people have told me, hey, I feel like I got to fast right now. I feel like I got to take a break from social media. I feel like I just need to just get with God, maybe do some fasting and praying, just do some consecration, pray for who I feel he wants me to pray for. So right now, I feel a couple things that I feel charged to pray for. Okay, I won't get into them, but there's some avenues I feel to pray. They line up with some things I've been thinking about, and I feel since that's where God's got me focused on. And then everything else, I kind of use my energy on where I sense God leading me. And I'm more and more in that. Find the grace, find what God's doing, because God doesn't have you assigned to help everyone everywhere. And that is a subtle message that's kind of out there, and it's exhausting. Right. And we're in when troubling times come, they cause you to like narrow down and get focused on what's important, or they should.
Right, they should.
Right? You let go of like stupid distractions, stupid arguments, and it's like, you know what? If my neighbor needs water, my neighbor needs toilet paper, it causes a simplification, right? And I think that we need to do that in how we approach hearing from God about what do I need to do, what do I need to focus on. It's probably just like one thing, two things. It's simple. And I do a lot in my work in helping people. Like, let's identify the theme that God has you in right now in the season of your life. Focus on that. And don't get distracted by all the pulls that if God's got you praying for a nation, then you pray, follow that grace. Or if he's got you over here, follow that grace. But man, we're forcing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we are.
And just keeping ourselves busy. So, okay. So what's helpful for you in beyond that? Is there anything in your focus that's helpful for watching over your heart as far as cultivating a healthy heart life? Is there a habit, a mindset, an approach, a focus that's helpful for you?
Well, for me, I have to, on the daily, worry about how I'm taking my peace, because I very easily am prone to feeling anxious, just anxious and tightness across my chest, even if I'm standing there doing the dishes. And then I'm preoccupied in my mind. I have to work extra hard, especially during these times, to just find my peace where I can. Sometimes that is, listening to music, to worship music, sitting quietly, alone, you and I having an interaction. I have to find those things that put me back to center.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to do that right now, because we can get very caught up in the mind and boop, we're gone. It may not look like it, but we are internally.
Yeah.
And I don't want to feel like I cannot even settle when I rest my head to bed at night. That's a hugely important thing for us.
Right.
On my body having a sense of peace, my mind having a sense of peace is something that I highly value right now. And yesterday, you and I both, I had a hard time, because I said to you at one point, I feel like I should be going somewhere and getting stuff.
Right. The pull into.
I felt this like anxiety, and I don't need anything. Now, could I go get extra stuff? Sure. But do I need anything? No. We have food for the week. I feel
That's
fine.
kind of a subtle thought that's being formed right now, right?
Like
stock
where
up,
do we
stock
need
up.
to go? Like, should we go buy more chicken? Like, what? I felt this compulsion and pull inside of me, and you and I are not having that conversation. It's in the spiritual atmosphere. It's there. It's in the atmosphere right now.
Right.
Okay. And don't be deceived to think that, well, I'm not saying that stuff. I'm not speaking that stuff. Oh, it's in the atmosphere. It's there to pull you. We are spirit beings. We have spirit inside of us. We are spiritual beings, and we are sensitive.
And you can hear the collective
good, bad, ugly.
What's the spirit of the age? You could hear
what's happening
you can feel that pull into the panic and do I have enough supply? Am I going to be okay? And all that. And that trickles down to your marriage, trickles down
to every interaction. And so at the end of the day, we have a very high value in our house that those interactions, some days they go good and sometimes they don't, but we have a focus on it, on how we're interacting with each other. How are we setting the tone of the day, and what is the atmosphere? It's very important, and you have to be mindful of that, because it can take you on a ride and you don't even know it. You don't.
Right. And I think
I answer that? I don't know where I went. I went on a little bit of a rabbit trail, but did I answer your question?
Yeah. I love it. I think it's really good. As you're talking, I feel two words that I value a lot right now are stillness and slow. So I felt, because my history has a lot of obsessive compulsive kind of stuff. And so when I can feel those branches wanting to form, it's a signal, I gotta deal with the heart. I need to experience God's peace, his love, and his grace, to kind of let those pathways just dissolve as I come into the realization of his peace and his love for me. And so even like the past couple mornings, we started off, we're just really valuing that, like you were, got up and you were kind of sitting in your chair. I was sitting in my chair across the room, and Max was doing his thing. There was like a silence, right? Did you feel that?
Yeah.
It was nice. It was like, we're not going to just kick this day off. We're not just going to go hit the ground running. And many families don't need to, because they're at home. They're quarantined.
Which can be we're used to being around each other because we homeschool and you work at the house. For those of you that aren't used to that, and you're used to get up and everybody's out of the house by 7 a.m., and now you're looking at each other all day long, and you're not used to that.
Yeah, we have to work through that because we live that.
We do it every day.
Yeah.
It's our routine. But for most of you, it is not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
this is why this is even more important, to be thinking about these things and cultivating that peace.
Yeah, and if it's awkward, people go, well, I get slow, it's hard. The more difficult it is to get slow and to get quiet, the more it reveals you actually need it. So I think, I was talking to somebody on the phone earlier today, and he said, America doesn't stop. So this is actually a gift for us to just stop and like look at your life and like look at what's going on and pause and don't just get busy and all these things. I think we have to realize, because our big fears are financial fears in America, right? We have to stop in this pause and go, who is our provider? Because we have a hidden vow that is everything we build is with our own hands. Right. We did this. We're Americans,
Which is a good value in a lot of ways of what we've built. Yes.
Yep, it is. And I don't want to just knock it.
Right.
I don't want to say it's 100% bad. I'm just saying entwined in it is this self-driven pressure that ignores the life of the heart.
Absolutely.
That doesn't make room. So in the space, lean into it. Lean into the space. And this is a time for you to get with God and have a pit stop. Right? Don't rush to try to just fill your home life now with a bunch of busyness. Just maybe sit in the silence. If you have kids, sit in the silence. Try it. It's amazing to see what happens when, all right, we'll just breathe for a minute. Let's just be still. Or let's just have a conversation.
Right.
A conversation. Wow,
right.
isn't
Shut
that?
Shut down video games. Shut down, right.
Okay, so what about married life? Married couples that are out there, what's some important things to keep in mind? Because I think that last week we were actually away for a few days while all the stuff was kicking up. And it was kind of weird. We were kind of like watching
You're
it all
in a
happen.
bubble, even though you're still in the world. You're like, we're not in our town.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And we both, we were, there's things with Max where he was having a hard time with some stuff on the trip, and we were having to deal with that and deal with the pain of it, emotional pain of it. There's stress things that started to rise up in us, and we could feel the like wanting to create agitation. Right. And even you and I were noticing, we were talking to each other, like, man, we're not like, our communication wasn't landing the best way. Right. And so we like took a step back and we're like, all right, we got stuff going on. There's stuff going on in the world. I feel like taking that understanding that in times like this, we really need to work on what it means to connect. God, I think of the scripture where David said, you set a table before me in the presence of my enemies, right? When I hear that scripture, it's like there's war going on around, or all these battles and all these things, drama, situations. And God goes, come on, let's eat.
Right.
And that's what I felt with you and I.
Right.
Like, I feel like, okay, we could both get really super stressed out. Let's set a table and let's just connect.
Yeah. Which can be extra hard for us because Max could have a sensory reaction to something in any moment.
Yep.
So we live with like
Constant
how to manage adrenal fatigue.
interruptions all the time.
Constantly.
Constant interruptions.
And maybe one of these fine days we'll do a podcast on what that all looks like for us, because I don't think people fully understand that. Because people will say, oh, kids go through that. Yeah, it's different. Right. So we'll address that at some point. However, it's super important for Mark and I on what it looks like for us to just get in front of each other's faces and connect and have that moment that you just expressed. Because it can easily get away from you and take us both out pretty quick.
Yep.
Not just exhaustion, but emotional pain. Because I'll say this one thing so that people understand this one point about how we live with Max. We have been on a journey with him, and as he gets older, you're always bumping into, oh, he's 12. Yeah. Or you see a 12-year-old boy, and you see how 12-year-old boys act, and then you see Max. In a acceptance, but hope for him. It is the most insane way to live. No, it is. Because I believe in absolute healing for him. I just believe in everything for his future. but yet you have to accept where he's at. So that dichotomy is always in our life, right?
Right. It creates a conflict, but it's where you're supposed to live.
It's not easy.
Accepting what's in front of you. This is what it is, because then it helps you to see the situation not worse than it is, not in denial of what it is, but just seeing what it is.
Which really is the lens for everything in life.
Right.
Right.
But with compassion, but yet hoping in God for what he can do with this and being available to that. But it's work.
When it's relationship and it's your kid.
So the mistake, I think the error that parents fall into is they're consumed with the parenting, and they don't go, nope, the priority is us. How are we doing? Hey, let's work through that. Hey, we're kind of snappy with each other. Let's work through that. And we try to help the kids to understand that we have things that we're learning to work out. Like, hey, Dad said that. Yeah, I shouldn't have said that. So they may see tension, or they may see things, but they're also watching the reconciliation of us working through.
Right.
So I mean, you know what?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that goes into such a all the other episodes that we've done about emotional language and how your kids see you communicating with each other.
Right.
They're watching mom and dad, how mom and dad talk. You're setting the standard for what their emotional health is.
That's good.
So even as you're talking about, they're hearing the news, they're hearing the things. Max, who you look at him and you think he is in his own world 24/7. He jumps out of it every so often to tell us a dinosaur joke or give us a fact about something or show us the Lego he built. But for the most part, he's in his own mind and in his own world. But then he's sitting at the table, what was it, yesterday morning, and he goes, Mom, is the virus still here?
Well, it was kind of funny in the car the other day. He's like, "Do I have the virus? Do I have it?"
He's like, "Are we gonna all die?" Poor Max, with his anxiety and stuff.
And then Abby was like, "Hey, what's with the canola thing?"
Canola. Well, if it's a cannoli, it's a lot better. But gosh, help us, Lord.
So hold on a second.
All right, stop.
The thing you said about emotional language. This is probably at the heart of what could help the most in your home, whatever that means, whether married with no kids or married with kids or wherever you're at, is finding communication where you can use emotional language to express what's going on in your heart, have language for it, and then that trickling down to your kids where they're able to express that, I think is incredibly powerful.
That's it. You want to have healthy kids that just know how to work through stuff? You want to equip your kids? Let them see you talking out with your spouse. I don't know what to do. They're just sitting in the room quiet. Okay. Let them watch you. You are parenting them even if you're not talking. They're watching you. They're watching your interactions. They're watching what you say. They're taking it in. Right there.
Which leads me to probably a big take home that we could recommend, I think you would agree, is one of the biggest things your children will take away from you is how you handled stress. They will learn not by what you say, but by what you do and how you actually handle things. If you shut down, if you get angry, if you lash out, if you're always screaming and yelling, if you're just hyper driven, busy at work all the time, your response to stress is what they will carry in their own life.
Absolutely.
Now our parents tend at times tune into our podcast episodes. So with that in mind,
listen, I'll let it rip.
So with that in mind,
know.
Mom and Dad, if you're watching, with that in mind, okay, what was your perception of how your parents handled stress?
Of how my parents did?
Yeah.
My father was very passive, so he just got quiet and worked. Work. That's what he did. He just worked, or he was in the yard. He was just a blue-collar worker,
Right.
He was a business owner, but still, he put on his dress blues, blue shirt, blue pants, and his work boots every day and went to work and cleaned furnaces. And he did that all day, came home, was in the yard, and any stress, you could sort of, looking back, I can see it in his face, but he just worked and was quiet.
Right.
My mother was very typical mother, stressed out, busy, and could easily freak
Right.
out. Guys, I think very typical of American families. How about your parents?
Dad, same thing. And Dad, if you're watching, this is true. So I think that it's like the more stressful things get, the more you put the fuel of that anxiety into it's a driven, there's like a fuel, right? And John Eldridge calls it the socially acceptable form of anger. Okay. So you have that stress forms anger. You're angry at yourself. You feel like you're not providing enough. You're struggling with who you are. There's an anger. So where's that combustion go? You got to go into work. Well, it doesn't solve the anger.
Right.
It just gave you some fuel for the moment. Right.
True.
So then, where's it left? So that's kind of, our dads and their generations. My mom, she said to me, we didn't have any time, being Norwegian, we talked back to when she lost her dad at a young age when she was 12, around there. And that's tragic, And I was like, what was the mindset? It was kind of like, I don't know. She says, us Norwegians, you
soldier on.
You work. You go. And it was like, there was no room for like, okay, just pause. And we're not like if you come over our house, we're not all sitting there like, how do you feel? It's just, it's not even like that. There's a lot going on.
Right.
We have two kids right now. There's neighbors that come over. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of, where'd Max go? Where'd Abby? There's a lot of that. What we're talking about is the overall like thermostat that you're setting in your home, just being intentional so that the times you meet, maybe it's at the dinner table, make that a great time of sharing, make it fun, make it enjoyable. We have like those certain like pit stops.
Time at night,
but I'm aware that, okay, a stressor hits me. My children are watching. Abby's watching. She's taking it in.
She definitely is.
She's taking it. Your kids are taking in. Remember you talked about the spiritual environment? Your kids are taking in the spiritual environment that's there. So I'm going to give you my opinion. It's just my opinion. But like if you're fighting a lot, just because you're not fighting around your kids doesn't mean they're not getting the spiritual effect of that over their life. And many times they know when you guys are not at a better place.
Right. They know you haven't talked in a month.
But like a lot of times you go, well, we don't fight in front of our children.
Kids.
We
do.
And it's, we don't do it on purpose. It just kind of, it happens, but we take responsibility for it.
Right. But I think.
And work through it where they see, I think where I like to see some change in parenting is a sense of honest recognition when you're wrong.
Yeah. Our kids see that. Our kids see reconciliation.
Like modeling that in marriage where I can admit to you when I'm wrong, but also being able to admit to the kid, hey, and I don't think that was modeled in generations before of that. Like I'm accountable to the same standard of what God's word says and what I'm teaching you, but I want them to know I'm working it out. And I think that gives them safety.
Absolutely.
It's not everything's perfect. It's that I trust where they're headed and I trust where they're working. And
it's modeling for them what conflict resolution looks like.
Right.
In that moment in real time. I love it. I hate when we fight about certain things, but if we do and we happen to in front of the kids and we let it happen, I mean, they don't see we're not like, cursing at each other and all that. But they see disagreements. They see those things. And I always look over at Abby and she is like a spectator and she's watching and she's waiting. And you can see as you and I are working it out, she just watches it in real time. We're not like, okay, we've just fought, Abby. Now we're going to reconcile. That's not how it works. We let her see in real time how we resolve and how we come together. And I feel like it's so cool that that's being given to her because that's stuff she's going to take in her relationships and in her own marriage. I wasn't equipped to do that. My parents either fought behind closed doors or was in front of me, and it was very scary and heartbreaking.
Right.
So, and
Scary,
to the
scary
point that
because there's no resolve too, and it just hangs and lingers, and then there's no like, well, what happened to that?
right,
Okay, I guess we should just move on, and then it's like, wait, there's
right,
so it damages the development of the heart because I don't see like things heal and oh, okay, we have mistakes, but we don't heal.
right. And I remember at 12 years old when they sat me, my brother, and my sister down to say we're getting a divorce. I was happy. I said, good, because I can't stand the fighting anymore.
Right.
I was glad, and that's not good.
Right. Really good.
Yeah.
So
So where else? What else, babe?
I have one last thought.
Okay.
And that is like, okay, so how do we talk to our kids about times like this? I could be totally wrong in this, but I feel we don't really have the news on in the house.
Mm-mm.
They're not really aware. Now they're aware, we were out of town and they see on the hotel screens and they hear people, mentioning it, and they hear us,
Right.
bantering back and forth. So they are aware of it, but it's not a major narrative in their day.
Right. They don't need to worry about it.
They don't.
They're
They really
kids.
don't. And when stuff comes up, my thing is constant reassurance of who God is, who we are as their parents. For example, right now, Abby's working through a little bit of just nervousness about being in her bed. And she's like, I just want to be in your room and stuff like that. And so we're working through that. And one night I talked to her and I said, listen, I'm always here. We're here. We're here. We love you. And Daddy's love is here. And God is with you always and forever. Okay? So you got all the back. And like we just started to have a conversation about how much love, how much protection. And I can see it like just settling her of like, because I was just equipping her that like, basically not being afraid of the dark and those kind of things that sometimes she works through and, stuff we all work through. But I felt like when I was a kid, I worked through it in silence. Like I just worked through it in my own head. I was like, you just fearful.
Laying there in fear with the blanket over you and you're sweating to death because you're so afraid.
Right. And then there was that,
days.
then there was that doggone closet. I was like, there's something there. No, there's something there.
Right? I fell asleep one time when I was little with books on my legs because I was reading and I jerked in the middle of the night and the book hit me in the head and I thought something attacked me in the night and it was the book. That was awful.
Right.
I have trauma from that.
Right. So it's
Anyway.
it's like getting that stuff out and reassuring loving presence.
Right.
And sometimes I joke with her. I'm like, anything, Daddy's going to take care of him. Daddy's going to take care of him. And we do it in a joking way. And she's like, yeah. And it just,
And what does she say? Social media.
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. She finishes the sentence, right? She knows it already at 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a smart kid. But it's those early ages are times to really cultivate empathy and love, model for them how to handle stress, and get them expressing, talking. And if they're like, oh, I'm nervous about this, share it. Why do you feel like you're nervous about that? Why do you feel that way? It's like when I do coaching work with people, it's very, very simple. Create an atmosphere of love and safety.
Right.
Look at the branch issue, the symptom, and just go another layer down. And then just go another layer down. And go another until you hit the heart issue, right? Which is usually like that deeper, that thing, that mindset or value system or belief or perspective. And we can do that with our kids, not like you have to act like a counselor, just asking and developing emotional language.
Right. What had done so much for me, even in growing up of where I was afraid of certain things, for my parents to ask, does that make you scared? Yeah, I understand. For them to just even say, you know what, I understand.
Right.
And don't think you have to be like some big psychologist for your kids.
Not at all.
Meet them where they're at and just ask, does that make you feel afraid? I hear you.
Right.
I understand. When I was your age, I totally get it. Don't demean them. Don't try to get them out of it. Just meet them where they're at.
It's good. That's really good. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. We hope this helped you. We hope it encourages you. I pray the God of peace would just continue to rest upon you. And check out some of our other videos that we're producing and putting out. If you want to use this time wisely, I'm going to recommend my book, I Will Not Fear. I wrote it many, many years ago, and I really felt strongly God wants to deal with the fear factor in our current culture. and have been sounding the truth of that for quite some time, and will continue to. Also, you could take advantage of my latest book, The Heart Healing Journey, which is available now, and there's a lot of video content I'm putting together for that. Excited about that. Consider a one-time donation, or consider subscribing in a partnership, or a monthly donation amount of your choice, whichever you feel led to. But we pray this resource has been a blessing to your life, and we look forward to seeing you in future episodes.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone.